All right, the last myth that I want to talk about for muscle building is training to failure all the time. Training just as hard as possible, man. Got to bulk. Got to go to failure every time, man, or else you're not going to build muscle. That's what people say. It's what I heard a lot when I was at high school. Just learning the ropes of lifting. I didn't actually have a personal trainer. I just learned from my friend, Rob. I just did what all the big rugby boys did in the gym. I was just a classic, person that I kind of make content for. I was just lost, just doing what the big boys do. And it, to be honest, it didn't really work that much. I could have gotten a lot better results if I was more detailed. But anyway, they just train to failure all the time because that was what you do, bro. It's just, you just train to failure. That's the manly thing to do. Be a real man and train hard and rugby and chicks. It was a lot of that environment. So I was like doing a lot of that, just lifting heavy this, heavy that, going to failure till I was shaking. I'll do tricep dips until I couldn't, I was like shaking like an old car. And then I'll do leg extension until my legs literally couldn't move. And then I'll do calf raises until I couldn't walk. And I'll do shoulder presses until I couldn't lift my arms. I was just like battering myself in the gym. And don't get me wrong, training to failure has its place. But you don't need to train to failure every workout, for every set, for every exercise. You're going to get too burnt out. If you're going to true muscular failure in every set of every exercise, in every workout, you're going to smash yourself. It's going to be very hard to recover from, especially if you're training 4 times or more. If you have an intelligent split, it may work, but you're going to need time to recover. So what I like to do, instead of training to failure all the time, is to train more intelligently and actually ramp up the intensity. But before I kind of talk about my approach, I want to acknowledge why training to failure all the time doesn't really work. So if you train to failure, right, and you're like really sore, you can't walk for a week, your legs are just crazy sore, can't sit down, it hurts. Like someone like accidentally kicks you while you're sleeping, like your girlfriend, and then it's just like absolutely painful because your quads are still recovering. If that's happening, you're actually stopping yourself from getting into the gym if you're too sore. Like, that's why, as a personal trainer, you don't just want to smash your client until you see them again, because then they can't train until they see you again a week later. So you just don't want to do that. If your muscle soreness is so hard you can't train for an entire week, you've overdone it. And you're slowing down your progress because you're only training that body part once per week. The research tells us we should probably train it at least 2 times per week, potentially 3, depends on the person. Maybe even 4, depends on your goals. So if you want to train to failure, the way that I like to do it so it doesn't get in your way and you're not so sore that you can't train and then you just like hate the gym and give up because it's so sore. Like, I remember I took it quite easy. I trained this Indian lady and she trained with me for a while. But the first session that she had with me, she like complained because she said she was so sore. Like so sore. She couldn't walk for a week. She saw a doctor. She took certain pills. And for me, I just thought it was absolutely crazy because like we did like body weight squats, body weight lunges. But she was so sore that she couldn't train for it was like 2 weeks. And I probably should have read the situation a bit better. But we did literally like 3 sets of 8 of like body weight squats. And then like we may have done split squats or maybe some leg extension. I can't even remember, but it was her quads. She said they were like sore to touch. So for me, I acknowledged that error. But she was so deconditioned that even doing body weight squats, like just like squatting down and standing up with no weight, and then doing leg press, which was probably like 14 kilos or 21 kilos, like so light that, you could easily bicep curl it like 50 times. It made her so sore. That is not what we want because it stops you from training. It stops you from progressing. It stops you from, especially as a beginner, like getting used to training and developing the skill of training. because training is a skill. It's like if you're learning new exercises, the more you can do them, the more comfortable you become with them. And then when you're more comfortable with exercises, you can get stronger on them. So if you're a beginner and then you just get so sore you can only train once a week, and then I'm training a beginner and I'm doing a better job than I did with this Indian lady, and I'm like training this person 3 reps away from failure, maybe 5 reps away from failure, just to be safe with this beginner. And they're coming in and they're doing the same workout because they're a beginner, like 3 times a week. Over 1 month, they're going to do an exercise 12 times and you're going to do them 4. If you train chest once a week and you're doing the dumbbell chest press on week 1 and then again week 2 and again week 3 and again week 4, you're doing it 4 times per month. If this beginner that I'm training is doing it 3 times a week and they're a bit further away from failure, they're going to do it 12 times in a month. So 3 times more than you. They're going to develop the skill of the exercise. They're going to develop better form. And then with that repetition, they're also going to get stronger in that exercise because they're exposed to that exercise and the stimulus of that exercise more. So that is why we don't want to train to failure all the time. We want to leave some reps left in the gas tank, especially in the first week of the program. And then we can ramp it up as we continue to move forward. We can do, this is how I like to do it, 2 to 3 reps in reserve for the first week. Second week of the program, we'd ramp it up. We do 1 to 2 reps in reserve. The third week, we can go all the way to failure, up to 1 rep left in the tank. And then in that last week, I want to see you training to failure quite often because it's the last week of the program. We just really go for it. We smash ourselves. We take ourselves to muscular failure on quite a lot of exercises, except for the ones that it doesn't make sense. Like you don't want to squat to failure because you might get squashed by the barbell. There was an unfortunate incident where someone actually passed away doing that recently. We don't want to take a squat all the way to failure. We don't want to do the deadlift all the way to failure. We might slip a disc. We don't want to take the bench press all the way to failure because we'll probably squash ourselves like a pancake. The leg press, if we go all the way to failure and we're doing a lot of weight, that's going to come back and squash us if we don't get the racks back in time to stop the weights. There are certain exercises where it's actually more of a danger to yourself to go to failure than it is to not go to failure. But then there are exercises like dumbbell chest press, bicep curls, leg extension, leg curl, 45-degree back extension, cable chest fly. You can take those all the way to failure and there's little to no consequence except for gains in the last week of the program. Because when you start a new program after the last week of this current program, when you do the new program, you start back at 3 reps in reserve. So you're almost kind of like deloading in that first week of the program, yet you're still taking it close enough to build muscle, close enough to failure to build muscle. And you're getting used to these new exercises that are in the program or the new tempo or the new strategy, the new method. Whatever your coach has decided to do, you can use that first week to almost feel it out. That doesn't mean you're training like a wet fish. Does that make sense? A wet fish? Fish are always wet. A sock in the wind. A wind sock. Whatever. It doesn't mean that you train like light and you just like cruise and you're like not even, like your heart rate's not even raised. You're just like, oh yeah, 3 reps in reserve, man. It's so easy. It still needs to be hard, just not so hard that you can't recover from and improve, apply progressive overload in the workouts following up to the rest of the program.